asked me what I was doing, and I have these reports that are due.
I know.
And you know, and it's a lot of moving parts, there's a presentation coming up this week with one of our one of our partners, which is the high school, Luther Burbank High School, and they have a prominent placement on Florin Road where one of or a couple of the chairs can be installed, and we just get a yes or no. If the beautification committee at the school wants to have the project installed at the location, and the plant operations manager is looking at the location that we would install the actual one of the large sculptures. So I have to prepare that presentation for that beautification committee on the mock-up drawings that have been submitted and the research that the artists that are painting those metal chairs submitted. So I have to consolidate. And the thing about it is, when people send you and operate on text messaging, and the new thing in 2023, 22, 21 is people send all this documentation via text. What am I going to do with this? Now I got it forwarded to my email or forwarded to my Google Photos. Now I got a lot of curation to do, because it's simpler for them to snap a photograph and send it through a text instead of sending it as a standard attachment to an email, you know.
Right. So can't you, I mean, because I work on an Apple computer, and so I get messages on both my desktop, laptop, and phone. And so when something like that comes through, I open it up on my laptop, and then I can save it without sending it anywhere else. And so that helps.
Yeah, but it's called synchronizing or syncing all these devices together. I have that, but it's just now you have to curate that. Now you have to open up that image. Now you have to share it with yourself or share it in the Google file, when it could have just been sent in the first place as an attachment. So I think it's just, you know, but it's easier to get the stuff from the artist if you can get it. But we're having some really good documentation that's coming in, and I'll share later, you know,
Cool.
in the hour when I pull it up. I know that Rhonda has a report. Hi, Rhonda. And Lisa, do you have a report today?
On the
You're on.
artificial, no, I was just listening to the artificial intelligence workshop that you
Yes.
sent me, which was more confusing, but I got they had millions of references.
Can you
to
can
learn more.
report on that today as well, if you like, because we're looking at it. I actually have that Read AI meeting as our secretary.
Excellent.
And so I'll share with you all some of the breakdown and how the AI is reporting us, and how the AI is reporting engagement and all this other stuff that we can use in research. I'll share that with you as well. You always see IA meeting notes on our screen. So
It is. I saw the report. That was pretty interesting. May I
did you
ask?
see it?
Yeah. May I
Yeah.
ask Laura, before we move on, what does this grant enable you to do now? Like what,
Yeah.
where does it bring you?
What it does, it's all about pre-development, feasibility studies, negotiating. What we're doing is creating a path to ownership. So part of it is, and we got another 250,000 that we've asked for from DCASE, and they're not so big on real estate, but we'll see what happens. The city is really excited about it, and there's other avenues of money that they can kind of they're finding what's in their pockets that they can kind of attach to this project. So
is this under Southwest?
Yeah, it's specifically for South Shore, but what we're doing is pre-development feasibility studies. What we're going to establish is, you know, a path to making this happen so that it can happen all over this, so we can demonstrate to the city that there's a market for artists, ownership, co-ops, mixed-use buildings,
It's very exciting.
shared workspace, et cetera, and how it can be viable. And so we're looking at just documenting, paying ourselves salary to kind of ratchet up producing this stuff, and then negotiating with the city for either a site or an existing building that we can rehab. So
Very exciting.
the
I
city
know.
just gave $2 million to Equity Arts, and Alma's directing that project. I'm on their advisory board. So she's in a building that she's been there for 10 years. She's on the second floor. It's not handicap accessible. It's just a pitiful, it's run down, but it's been dedicated to the arts loft space for like 6 or 8 units above for 40 years. We've had friends coming and going from that building for years, but the guy who owns it, and it's kind of family owned, wants $15 million for this building, which I'm trying to tell Alma, we've worked for 40, 50 years in this community. He doesn't deserve to walk away with $15 million. Fuck him. I'm sorry.
You want this recorded, Laura?
That's okay.
So, I think he needs a decent return on his investment. He got it for free. It's kind of like, I'm gonna take your $2 million and get a bigger building that serves more people, that's totally, dedicated with your values. Why should you work so hard for $15 million to have a broken down building? It doesn't make any sense to me, but this is, I think, important that the city sees the value of this project being transit-oriented development, coming from the perspective of artists as presenters, and equity development. So that's an important step. Absolutely. So I don't want to get in the way of, so I
So
don't
is
think
it over there? It's over there by, the location is over there by the train, right?
remember Lubinsky Furniture, he's still there. So it's a building, a double building yes, it's right around the corner from the Blue Line. It's at the heart of Wicker Park. But, as far as arts organizations go, you can be just about anywhere. Your people will follow you. You don't have to go to the outskirts of town, but you could go a block away and make a better investment. But good luck. If she's determined to raise $15 million for somebody else and then do another, what is she going to need? She's going to need probably like $8 million plus 15 only. Yeah, that's a lot of money.
Right.
That makes sense. You could do it for, for a lot less. But artists aren't always the smartest people about real estate.
And that's why your expertise is so important. And you're on her board of advisors, or?
I'm kind of like an unpaid advisor consultant.
Well, congratulations on, finally, like you said, finally. Who is this that we're pulling up here?
Oh, that's us. I'm at the bottom of the page. There we go. Finance.
Oh, that's Alma right there.
Yeah.
Looks like a lovely group of people, though.
Yeah.
They exude welcoming in
Well,
their.
the Silver Room's on that, on the board. And Silver Room also has the Bronzeville Winery. That's their other project over here on the south
Yeah.
side. Go kind of slow, a little bit slow. Oh, Heaven Gallery's part of that.
She is head of Heaven Gallery, and Equity Arts is kind of the economic development that's trying to do the
And
building.
Victoria Fuller is on that. I know her. Victoria. We've worked together in the past.
Exciting.
Could you put
Yeah.
that back up? I was kind of scouring and looking at the board that, you know, I think it's a really interesting board of people that's community engagement. Slow, go back. I see another, she's
There's Alma here. I'll put it there.
right, go up to the next slide. Roll back up. There you go. I was looking here. Honey Pot's over there. Heaven Gallery. Brett's at the Department of Cultural Affairs now.
Hmm.
Yeah. I don't know Sadie Woods, but I know Brett. And Avant to Love at Heaven. Heaven's a performance space, right?
No,
I've been
Heaven
over there.
Gallery is, they've got two big spaces. She lives in the back. She does vintage kind of resale stuff.
But
as
I went to
well.
some Afterfest there. Maybe they've done something else in the last 10 years, but I've been to some of their Afterfest concerts. You know, experimental musicians show up there, but I know that she has the clothes in there, and they also have exhibition space there. But
Yeah.
Front Porch Arts Center, what's that one?
Front Porch is in Oak Park, and they kind of do installations and performances in people's front yards. You back?
Here it goes. Let's see, Front Porch Arts Center. They just came on the scene not too long ago. I saw them showing up.
Oh, I guess they're in West Chicago. So
Yeah,
maybe they started in Oak Park, but now they're 5400 West is either Garfield Park or Austin.
I know
I
that Beverly had some front porch presentations too, especially during the COVID, but I don't know whether or not they're connected with any particular organization. But they started doing that too.
I saw them. They came out west. They were in Hayward, and also they were in doing the Front Porch Theater in Sacramento. I saw them with Yaya Andrea Porras. She does a lot of theater, but I remember that cross cultural exchange with Front Porch coming from there.
If I may interrupt just briefly, Rhonda, do you want to
Yeah.
go into a breakout room to chat with my sister about the
I thought she was
manufacturing?
presenting
Or are you presenting something?
I'm presenting. It's
Okay.
going to be brief, and then after that, I can, we can go into the chat room. Is that fine?
Sounds good.
All righty. Where am I? Okay. All right. So is it my turn?
Yeah, jump right in.
All right. I don't have any written materials, but I do want to just basically talk about what I learned about going to the conference. It's called the One State Conference, and it's put on by the Illinois Art Council. And the first thing I wanted to share is that it wasn't what I was looking for. That doesn't mean that it wasn't a good conference, but it wasn't what I was looking for. You know, sometimes they send out organizations or groups that's doing something will send out feelers about what it is, even though they haven't done the lineup of who's going to be the presenters and what have you. And so that's probably their fault, but then it's also my fault because I didn't like follow through to find out specifically what the conference was about. But that is okay because I learned something and I met new people. One quick caveat, if you ever go to Springfield and stay overnight, make sure that you're in a decent hotel. I I used to live in Springfield and I had, you know, and then going back and forth there, I knew about one building that was built, but gosh, this was 30 years ago or so, maybe more than that. And it was the tall round tower that's a hotel, and it's changed its name a lot of times. Well, I felt comfortable. I said, oh yeah, I know that hotel. I went there. It was not clean. The bedding was horrible. You get no service. But then I guess you get what you pay for because I only paid $75 a night and it was just not even worth that much to me. So that was one thing I wanted to share with you. But the conference, I thought the conference was going to be about focusing on if you're doing something with tourism in your location, be that in Chicago, Springfield, you know, all the other small towns in Illinois. But it wasn't about that. It was basically, and I thought I was going to be able to get some data, statistics, ideas about what to sell, and that's what I thought it was about, but it wasn't. What it was about is for organizations, nonprofits who have programs within their designated area. So that's basically what it's about, what it was about. And so there were several organizations that presented what they were doing and how they did it. One interesting thing, Laura, is that there was, and I'm looking at my program here, there was a group that had done something with artist residencies. And he talked about, but it's nothing like what you're doing. But he talked about how somebody gave him this he and his wife, this old rundown house, and the process they went through to revitalize it, remodel, rehab, and marketing it so that it could be an artist residency program. And it's out in the woods, you know, so, but that was really interesting. Let's see, another thing that there was, and I do have a fact sheet for that, and I am going to share that with you. I just have a hard copy, but I thought it was good. There was one presentation and it was 10 financial mistakes nonprofits make. And one thing that I know that they were talking about is that your donors are like your partners and that they should be included in some way, some of the decisions that you're making. On the other end, donors have to be totally buy into what your vision and mission is and understand your programs, because if not, they may start asking you to do things that's not in your agenda or on your mission. So they said like to watch out for what they call mission creep. Let's see what else did that. Oh, and they were talking about donations, and they said that donations fell 2% during the end of the year last year. It's gone up since COVID, but it still hasn't pulled back up to where it was previously before COVID. So they're working on, organizations that were represented at this presentation. We're working on how to bring back their donors that have left, or how to increase the amount of money that donors give. So they talk about that. Let's see. That's it for that one. Let's see, another one I went to was it was a lightning session, and there was about 6 different organizations across the state that just gave a 15-minute presentation on their organization and what they're doing. They did not list, I think that the conference again probably has to ramp up, because this was the first time they've given it in quite a few years, I think 3 or 4 years. So the program that we got didn't list any of the people's names. It just named the name of the workshop. It didn't list any organizations. We all know what a conference is supposed to do. And all they did on their program is a front and back, and they listed the name of the workshop, but they didn't name the speaker, so that you could get back with them. So if you really wanted to get some information from that speaker, you had to hang around at the end to sort of get information. So this one session I went to, they presented about 5, 6 people presented their programs. One was a youth program, and that was pretty good. So again, I just listened, and of course I did learn something new. Let's see what else is on here that I wanted to point out. I'm going to say Jay Ivey for last. He was the keynote speaker. There was one, local artists, global issues, centering lived experiences in art making. So I went to that one, and they again talked about their different programs. And again, I don't have any of the names of who was doing the presenting. So that one was pretty good. I do want to give a shout out for that was the first one of the first sessions on Monday. So the session was actually all day Monday. And then they had a reception at the end at the governor's mansion with the governor's wife. She's a nice looking lady, tall and slim, looks like a model. So that was very nice. But I want to give a shout out to Pomone Ramey. He was there with his wife, Maseko. And he was in one of the first sessions. I didn't go to it because I knew him, and plus I wanted to go to another session. And the session he was in was called Filmmaking in Illinois, a transformative medium for local change making. So in that session, they talked about different videos and educational materials that are being developed for artists and artist organizations. The last one I want to talk about is the keynote. And I liked it. One thing that I liked about this conference is that they saved the keynote speaker for almost last. Usually the keynote speaker is early the first day, or in the morning, or right after lunch. They had us, do all of the workshops. We had lunch. We may have had 1 or 2 other workshops in the afternoon, and then the keynote speaker was sort of like the ending of the conference. And the keynote speaker was a Grammy Award winner, Jay Ivey. I had heard of him through my niece. I didn't know anything about it. He calls himself not a rapper. He calls himself a poet. And so he gave his presentation. He talked about how he got started as a kid, how a teacher saw how he was very good with writing poetry. And so he talked about all of his experiences and how he hooked up with different artists in California to make a name for himself. The presentation was very well put together, really great presenter. He combined a little poetry within his presentation, but I could tell he really worked on it because he referenced back to his hometown of Chicago, how he loved Chicago and how it helped him. He also did a shout out to Abraham Lincoln. He said that's a great name for a city and what have you. You know, it attracts different people. And he did a shout out. Miss Illinois was there, so he did a shout out for her. So he really pulled everything together at the end. Then finally, the last thing I wanted to share with you, and I just have a hard copy, but I'll figure out how to send it out to everyone. This one is called, the hard copy is called Characteristics of Financially Healthy Nonprofits. And again, some of the presenters, most of the presenters didn't have handouts or anything, which I said, oh, maybe because I'm an educator, I'm looking for all that paper, what have you. But some of them said, well, you can contact them. That meant you had to go up there and ask them because their contact information wasn't on the agenda, and actually ask them for, give them your contact information. But this one group is called Propel. I don't know if you guys heard. I'm not real familiar with the nonprofit arena, but this place is called Propel, and they help nonprofits to establish their programming and what have you. So this sheet has characteristics of financially healthy nonprofits. And so I will definitely send this out. I'll have to, I guess, I'll figure out how to do it.
Rhonda, I'm going to share a little bit more about the arts for Illinois, because you
Okay,
did
that
mention
would
their
be
work.
good.
Yeah,
That would be
you,
good. I'd
yeah,
appreciate
you mentioned their
appreciate
work
that.
in with COVID. So I
Mhm.
pulled this up while you were talking, and this is kind of like when the collaboration between the city of Chicago and the state of Illinois and private
Mhm.
philanthropy or this supported the arts in a difficult time. So they just have a showcase of some of the projects that were funded by artists through COVID.
Mhm.
And, you know, I know that you were giving your report on the Arts Alliance, but looking at their report card and the things that they've been doing across the state, you know, reflects a bigger narrative
Mhm.
than you're giving it from your perspective of attending and ways that they could probably do a little bit better with the planning. But in terms
Mhm.
of what they do and the scope of what they do, we do need to say that on Profit
Mhm.
Research Station. Um,
Okay.
you know, on this page, they have a lot of interviews with artists that were funded during COVID with relief
Mhm.
money that went back into the economic stimulus of the state,
Mhm.
you know, um, in the economy. So you can kind of
Mhm.
visit their website and see a little
Right.
bit more. I've
Right.
attended in the past some of these conferences, but you know, again, like I said, you went and this is what you got out of it. It wasn't your expectation when you went. Um, you know, it's a great networking
Mhm.
opportunity. Masekwa is actually on the board of directors for the Illinois Arts Council. And
Mhm.
she's been on the board there since she retired out from Southside Community Arts Center. But anyway, I saw this
Mhm.
and I thought, well, look at all of the work, you know,
Right.
that they are doing. I played a little video. I hope it's you can hear it.
Right. And I think that I think that you're right. I'll let you. From my perspective, I'm new to the organization. Mm.
I just thought I would
Mhm.
share that,
Yeah, that's
because we have to
great.
keep our perspectives of what
Mhm.
the Alliance is and what it does and how it supports artists. And that's my
Right,
PSA message
right.
regarding the
That
Arts
that was
Alliance.
good.
And
That was good.
yeah,
Because
and the
like I
Arts
said, I think.
Alliance just
Mhm.
had the back to business
Right,
for
right,
artists, and they made
right.
sure that creatives were as part of that
Mhm.
plan. So I think sometimes we
Right,
have to look at the bigger picture of what
right,
the Arts Alliance does for the state, and how they advocate
right.
for artists in the state of Illinois.
Yeah, but like I said, I was new. I did join. I
Okay,
did
thumbs
join.
up.
Yeah, so maybe next year I'll have a different kind of report because I'll know what I'm going into.
Yeah.
So that part was good. And it was excellent networking because I connected with at least 8 people. One of former colleague who worked with me for University of Illinois, she was there. So I was able, people are very friendly, of course, us artists, we're always friendly. And so that was one of the best things for me was the networking opportunity and to learn about a new organization. I mean, an organization that I didn't know about and what they were about. So,
Yeah. Question:
uh,
was there
mhm.
anything on research there? Did you see
No,
anything? Okay.
you mean like data and all that kind of thing?
Yes.
No, there wasn't anything on that. And that's
The
sort of
annual
what I
report, did they have their annual report business meeting at that time?
maybe it was private. It wasn't in the general conference.
Oh.
So maybe they had a private presentation on that, but it definitely, wasn't in the conference itself. Um, my plan is to attend again. And if it's in Springfield, make sure I go to a better hotel. And so, yeah, it was good. You never miss out when you go to a conference, not in my opinion, anyway.
So
Uh,
Rhonda, was Richard Hunt given an award? Because I think that's where
yes, he was.
that Mrs.
They
Pritzker
gave
was
a
gonna honor
full,
him.
yeah, they gave, there was the young man there that gave a full presentation about Richard Hunt. So, yeah, he was honored there. He wasn't there, but
Okay.
a representative was there, yes, and talked about, Richard Hunt and all of his work and what have you. So, yeah, they did have that.
He was kind of frail when they honored him at the Art Institute, I think.
Mm.
So I
Oh,
think,
really?
yeah, he was sort of frail.
Mm.
But he was
Mm.
in here, but yeah. So isn't that what Rob Joy used to be in charge of?
Yes, he
Illinois
was the
Arts
executive
Alliance?
director
Yeah,
for the Arts Alliance
they do
before
a
getting
lot.
before getting this huge promotion at the NEA. So I'm one of his biggest he's a champion in terms of the arts and where he took the Illinois Arts Alliance, and then like with his promotion and what he's doing now nationally.
Because they do a lot of lobbying, don't they?
They
Yes.
And
do. That's
that's
kind
a
of the big thing. I just had a long conversation with them and they were telling me, here's some data points. Illinois has the 5th largest economy in the United States, but it ranks 25th in funding for
Mm.
the arts.
Mm.
And they aspire, the Illinois Arts Alliance said, we're gonna raise that funding to at least be up where North Dakota is. And when you're comparing funding for the arts, it's per capita, it's not just a lump sum. So it's kind of interesting that Illinois is so far down in the ranking, right in the middle of 50 states. And
Mhm.
I admire their strategy. And they are looking for more input from artists and arts organizations. I was active with them in doing neighborhood arts economic impact studies 25 years ago. And so
Mhm.
when they put their head to something, it really does make a difference. And
Right.
the problem I think that the state has had with the Illinois Arts Council was that Madigan's wife was the president of it forever and ever. And her message was just keep quiet. You're still here, you know. And I'm not sure who the Illinois Arts Alliance, I'm sorry, Illinois, what's the Arts Council?
Mhm.
Is more of a government agency, lobbying for funds. But Illinois Arts Alliance is one of the most progressive arts supporting non-for-profits in that lobbying field in the United States. So I think they've got new energy, new leadership. And so I think it would be worthwhile to help them be more visible.
Okay. I know that they quoted an amount. They did. I thought they were going to go over data about how much tourism brings in, and that kind of thing, some demographics and what have you. One thing they said is that there was $484 billion donated to art, to nonprofits, and only 5% goes to the arts and culture. So that's not, I mean, it's billions, a lot of money, but to say that we only get 5%, that's no fun. But I
I
guess, like
think
you
what
said, Laura, they have to regroup now and really, I mean, with all the money, this funding coming down the pipe, it does seem like the arts are getting more visibility as far as their effect on society and addressing issues, whatever those issues are. So
right, the
it's
new
a good
money,
thing.
recovery money that's coming through because of COVID is redirected. And so, for the first time as an artist, I qualified for unemployment during COVID. So I'm really grateful. That was $16,000. Nobody's lining up to give me a grant or a fellowship for that much. But the B2B, the Illinois Department of Economic Opportunity now has recovery money for artists as organizations, commercial or business, as sole proprietors. So if you can, if you file a Schedule C, which is sole proprietor for your arts business, and you can show receipts in 2019, 20, and 21, and file those income taxes, you can qualify for some support. So
Right.
that's kind of totally new ground for the state of Illinois.
Yeah, it
That is
is
progress.
because they yeah, because most of the time when you're writing for that money, you have to talk about your vision, your programs. Basically, all they're wanting is your tax verification.
Yep.
And I told my son about it because he's an artist. And at first I said, they're all, I mean, everybody in the conference was saying, make sure you apply, make sure you apply. And someone was saying, yeah, you'll get at least $5,000 if you meet the qualifications. And I told my son about it, and he looked at it, but he didn't look at it hard enough because he was thinking that he had to show a $5,000 loss in order to get $5,000. I said, no, 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 no. They want you to show a loss, period. And based on that loss, you will get maybe possibly $5,000. It doesn't depend on the amount of loss that you experience. They just want you to verify that you have a loss. So there were a lot of people, you know, the buzzword about that grant was everywhere at the conference.
Good. That's great news.
Yeah, yeah. So do anybody have any questions?
So you said you got a scholarship, and the scholarship helped you
Oh.
with accommodations, or?
Yeah, I didn't share that. I filled out the application as soon as I decided I was going to go, and I got a $750 scholarship, which covers my registration, and it's to cover my hotel expenses as well as travel. So I still have to fill out the paperwork, you know, to get reimbursed. It's a reimbursement. And
These
so I'm sure they're gonna,
reimbursement things. That's why you got that cheap hotel you didn't love.
hey, listen,
Ah.
that hotel was horrible. When I got home, I took my clothes out and shook them and put the suitcase outside in case I had bed
Oh
bugs.
no! Oh no! When I
So
went to
beware.
no, when I went, of course, when artists get scholarships, you can. I mean, I think I was working there as an intern through the School of the Art Institute, 1 year back in the 2000s, and well, staff, they put us up in a really good hotel, but we had to share, you know, the room. But it was really good as
Mhm.
part of the conference center, and it was down in Geneva. You know,
Mm.
so it was a long travel, but it was a beautiful location. You know, in that part of the state. They
Yeah.
also had it 1 year, not in Peoria, but they had it here in Evanston. They had it
Mm.
here. And that was a good, you know, conference at that time. So
Mhm.
and that's when
Okay.
Rod Joy was the director, executive director.
Oh, okay. Okay.
So
Yeah, and I did, and just one other thing, I did stop by on the way out of town. I stopped by the African American History Museum for Springfield. It was interesting, very interesting. I enjoyed that. So I took like a little side tour
how
of
big is it?
that location. Pardon?
How big is the museum?
Let's see, I'm not good with square footage, but I would say that is, you know, in Gallery Gouchard, it was about as big as the big area, the first area you go into a Gallery
Uh-huh.
Gouchard. Yeah, it's
4,000
about
square
that
feet.
size.
That's
Yeah, about
4,000
that.
square feet.
Yeah, not counting the back,
Yeah,
just the
4,000
front.
square feet. Total
Yeah,
square feet there is 7,000 square feet. So
okay,
4,000 is front, and then you have a smaller commission
right.
gallery in the back.
Right. So it was about that big. They had mostly, they didn't have many artifacts. I mean, you know, first phase artifacts like a real whatever, but they did have a lot of pictures, a lot of stories. And one thing they had that I haven't seen yet is that they had one little room that they set aside, and it looked like it was supposed to be the innards of a ship. And so it showed how the slaves, how the Africans, they weren't slaves, they were Africans that were caught for slaves, how the Africans were laid out in this ship. And man, it's real little, really little. I said, oh no. So that was interesting. So
So
that's the end of my report.
all right, thank you, thank you.
Okay.
Wow. So you drove yourself over there, or took the
I
train?
drove. I drove. At first, I was going to take the train, but I drove, and a girlfriend went with me, which gave me some company. And I was sort of used to driving to Springfield. So I had my little car, and it went really well. At first, I was going to rent a car, but no, it was not far enough for me. My car is pretty good shape, so I drove. And so it takes about 3 hours to get there. My girlfriend, she talks a lot, so the time went by really fast.
Yeah, road trips are always good. Yeah. So thank you
Mhm.
for attending and coming back sharing. Because
Okay.
it's one thing to hear about what an advocacy agency does, and it's another thing to go and show up to the conference and everything and support it that way. And
Yeah.
so I guess
Uh,
next year you'll be doing more advocacy because they send out every year letters to our representatives, to our senators, to the governor on art issues that come up. They send it to the
mhm.
members.
Mm.
So maybe you'll
Okay.
be involved more with some of the advocacy efforts and getting
Yeah.
monies
Be
awarded
interested.
to the arts.
Yeah.
All right. Lisa, you said you mentioned that AI
Oh, before you move on to that, Alpha, Lisa, is your sister here with you?
Liza.
Yeah,
Liza, I'm sorry, Liza.
come into the breakout room for a second. We'll chat and then we'll
Okay.
come right back.
Okay. How do I do that?
Okay, hang on. There should
Uh,
be.
Let's
Oh, maybe it
see.
closed. Hang on. I'll put it right up. Go ahead. I'll talk to you in the chat if it doesn't come up.
Okay.
Your mic is off, Lisa.
Oh, wait a minute, wait a minute. No, my
Oh,
mic is
I
on.
just saw your mouth moving. I didn't know if you were
Can you hear
talking
me?
or not.
I
I
wasn't
can hear
saying
you.
anything. Yeah,
I
no,
can hear you.
and they're gonna release both the notes in the chat to those people who attended. And I think it was on the panel, and I'm looking for the notes in my hot mess. There were 4 copyright lawyers. So you had a representative from Wikipedia. Wait a minute, I'm looking for, I put it somewhere. And so to me, I'm confused about, I know nothing about artificial intelligence beyond Google Translate would be an example, and what you do with the notes are an example. And I guess what they say the best use for accuracy is basically it's been used, artificial intelligence has been used to translate a lot of materials into language. But even if you use a translation as a device to translate, you still have to have a human check it out and make sure the language is correct. So in every sense of the word, you need to make sure that humans always have to go by and get it. But they had all types of articles listed in the chat. They had, and I copied some of them just to go back and look, and the chat was robust. And I can't believe it. I was just sitting here looking at it. So what did I do with it? I'm paper queen. So it was interesting, but what it says right now is basically it's not going to replace human beings anytime. And then there's so many articles about it and so many different types of artificial intelligence that are being used. And so in terms of one, I think finding was basically if there's bias on the internet and, that bias and those perceptions are going to showing up with the artificial intelligence when you have them do, papers or subjects. And one good use of it is it's a good creative in terms of for brainstorming to start you on your research, but you still have to document and go and check out the resources because it's not there. And then in terms of my minorities or native, it's underrepresented, and the best way for them to do it is basically they would need to hire, here it is right here, So you had Lila Bailey with Internet Archive, Jacob Rogers, Wikimedia Foundation, which is Wikipedia, which is a secondary source on what's already present, and Kat Walsh on Creative Archives. And so, I mean, it was deep. It was they were talking about some of the issues, but basically, it's got a long way to go.
So
Used.
we've been listening I'm glad that the Internet Archive and Creative Archives were on that panel discussion. And like I said, we'll see it at
Creative Commons.
Creative Commons.
Mhm.
And we'll see them on, I guess they'll load up the panel presentation on YouTube for the public.
They said it should be up in a day, and they'll send me a
Right.
link, as well as the chat, because the chat had a whole bunch of resources. The chat
Mhm.
was huge.
Right, and I think that's if we could load it up on our menu and we could have it as a resource, that would be great. Did you save the chat, lady?
No, I what I do is copy the links. I'm not saving all that chat crap. Excuse me, I know it's me. I just copied the links that were of interest into Word
Okay,
with the types and the whatever. And I think that was about 3 pages of just
Yeah.
chats and what those links were. And, in terms of articles, in terms of courses that are being taught and the syllabus and that kind of stuff. Let's see if I can I've saved
I
it.
had sent that to Ashley, our fellow.
Uh-huh.
But right now, of course, it's crash. It is what do you call it? Crash time for college students when they're working on their final exams and passing classes. And so she wasn't able to attend, but I thought that was a good workshop, to attend. And I didn't attend it. What was my intention, because I went into another meeting before
Uh-huh.
that, but I'd like to have the information so that I can go back at my leisure and look at the Zoom or the webinar.
One of the things that Ella Bailey said about Internet Archives is that one of their goals is to provide a library infrastructure and and the importance of having a verification process, as well as a provenance or the source of that information. And I just took quick notes in terms of what happens, in terms of what might be appropriate. But, you might want, in terms of Ashley and getting the final report, I think this would just distract at
Okay.
this point in time, and in terms of her just focusing on getting the timetable ready. And I'll send her it out, because I copied and I tried to take a photo of that had a really good timetable worksheet, but I couldn't do it because I think they wanted you to send the link and eventually pay. So what I did was copy what the key things are on Excel, and I will send that to her as a way to do it. And I think we had talked about earlier having her just focus on doing what's out for exhibit as what's on display as a starting point, before going into, so that she can see what the challenges are and that type of thing, with what's out there, so that in terms of a work plan, then that way it may be easier for a work plan for getting in the storage.
And I sent you the digital, what do you call it? The digital plan for the museum. And it was an appendix that is a guidance for creating a digital products plan. I sent you that, and it was something that IMLS application required and requested. So I think that if you guys take a look at that, we already have a plan for the museum. I know you've asked about it several times, but we have one. And I submitted this one for the Black History Month 365 Days Festival application. But what it did is it gave us the opportunity to actually put one together, and it's not a shelf project, it's something that's livable.
Okay.
That we need to implement. So I shared that with you so she could have it for her meetings that are coming up. So,
And you shared it with her also, correct?
yes, both of you
Okay.
guys. That would be great. So, and then you went to a archive with here.
I'm gonna report on that next week. I am not ready to report on that. And they're really, I didn't take notes. What I'll do is just, my focus next week will be basically on the timetable and what the output was of those 4 organizations. There were about 5 or 6,
Uh-huh.
because basically they were just showing what their websites were, and they had all gotten funds in terms of what their output is and what they're sharing. Because they all had robust websites that documented what they had done.
So I know Tempest is one of the artists that lives here at the Bronzeville Artist Loft, and she's the director of 60 Inches from the Center. So
Right. And I think she's in cahoots with the library, as Laura so aptly shared, to look to see what she had actually digitized. And I think they've got some upcoming projects that they're going to be working on together since they got that grant.
right. Their initial grant was like what, 350,000 that they got from the NEA. And so Tempest and I talked about it for a moment, about all the hoops that she had to jump through when you finish those big proposals, how draining it is with your mind, especially if you're not working with a team of people to bounce all this stuff off in your head, putting it out. And we talked about when she first was funded, the larger piece.
But she focused more there on those publications that she's put together.
Right. And that was her whole thing when she started off, when she was at Chicago Artist Resource with Department of Cultural Affairs. And she was going out to all these events and recording stories of artists and their projects. And so it's really great to see it land at Harold Washington Library in those archives. And then the continuation of gathering those stories over the years. So I think it's about 10 years she's been running that program. And so to kind of get the update on what they're doing is great. I mean, I could just like go upstairs and have a powwow, but when we're home, when we're at the lofts, we come home, we don't come home for business, so I like to set up a time to kind of meet with her where it's centered around business and not, and her time is split between here and Peoria these days. But anyway, I wanted to share real quick, I'm going to take a field trip to New York, and I'm going to visit this installation. And Rhonda's not here, but this is kind of leading into how she visited the African American. Can you guys see this on the screen share? Okay, great. And so this installation here on Governor's Island is produced by Charles Gaines, and he's a public artist. And I have the opportunity to go over there this month to visit this installation before it leaves Governor's Island and goes to Connecticut, its next stop. But it's this huge project that took him about 8 years to build. And it resembles the cave on the inside of a ship, of a slave ship. So I thought it would be an interesting public art piece to go visit, and it being not only a public art piece, but also a placemaking opportunity. And they're having a huge, the weekend of May 19th, they're having a symposium. It's called the River Years of Black Gotham Experience, where they're having these conversations and art talks, about the river. Here it is about the American manifestation. He will be presenting this. For me, Charles Gaines, he was one of my college professors in the 80s when I was at California State University of Fresno and the art department there. And he was, one of the art teachers. So for me, this whole 30-year later, almost 40-year later, to see the work that he's doing nationally on this scale is kind of important. So I'm taking a field trip over, just a site visit, and to experience this project. So. And then also looking at some of the tools for arts engagement and some of the tools for art and environmental justice as well. We'll kind of go over some of those things as he presents. And this is the one that's going to come in the summer in Connecticut. And we always look at support. It took him like years before he shipped this project around, before he finally got funding for it, but it was, and he just kept building and making it happen and investing in it before it became like fundable, I guess. Yeah, so I thought I would share that with like kind of trying to take these field trips or field studies and make sure that I'm working in the arts as well, because all the work that we do, sometimes we lose sight of the work that we do, you know what I mean, as artists and stuff. Your mic is on, Lisa?
I saw it's going to be in Cincinnati next summer, so that'll be an easier place for me to get to. And there you've got the Underground Museum, Railroad Museum there, which is really a nice spot. So that would be sort of synergetic.
Who said this? Theaster's Liverpool docs. You have that?
Yeah, the next message. Sorry, I pushed enter too soon. So I put it in the chat. It was announced on Dezeen today, and he and the architect have been working on a bigger museum project about slave trade.
So here it is right here. Is this it?
Yeah.
Wow, this is it. This project right here. Where you're
Right.
walking down into it. Oh,
Right.
wow.
So Liverpool was a big shipbuilding.
Mhm.
So they have all these docks that aren't being used anymore. And so the project builds a bridge across so that pedestrians can get to it. And this is where the slave trade ships were rebuilt or reconditioned or whatever. So it's kind of making use of existing docks to tell that story historically. So it's not built yet. This is their.
I was gonna say, like, when did all this happen, right? This is their,
Yeah.
like, the concept. Wow. This is gonna be an amazing project, I think. Coming to I'm wondering, what is this here in the middle? What is that? Is it
It's built, it's proposed to be
Mhm.
built out of bricks or stone. So they have kind of a illustration of walking inside of it. And so it's a place for contemplation. So that's what it's going to look like. And so I'm not sure what the existing site looks like, but the story is interesting because they are looking at So this is with Asif Khan, but he's also working with another African architect. So he designed the Serpentine Pavilion in London last summer.
I'm just going down the article here.
Right.
This is, I wonder what, how many years that they say it's gonna take them to do this.
Because I know in London, it was the Black Chapel that he had in the Serpentine Gallery that was outside, and it was a huge round outdoor structure that was there.
So here's a link to the Ajayi Associates.
I'm
for the
looking at it right here. It says
Green.
David Ajayi, a Nigerian architect, and Marina Kamara were also on the team, though this is no longer the case, according to Architect Journal. So I guess they came in as consultants for Plan A and urban planners. And he has a list of prior urban planners.
Mhm.
He's the one that did David Ajayi was the one that did the grill work on the African American Museum at the Smithsonian, and he's also doing the Studio Museum of Harlem that's behind in terms of getting produced.
Interesting, all these projects that they're doing. Cool. So other big projects that are coming through. I know I said I was going to show some examples of the placemaking project. I am still trying to decompress from the submission of this grant that the California Arts Council had on Creative Corps. And they had monies for city municipalities to form these artists, collectors, and artist teams, something like $117,000. They had maybe 20 grants, but you had to be in these what do you call it, frontal areas of livability. So it was just a lot of work that went into that in the last few days, and it was submitted on yesterday. Of course, I always put Pop-Up Research Station as a part of this in the evaluation surveys, and looked at intercepted surveys that will go along with this project. Again, it was just submitted, but the partnerships already exist with and looking at social justice and community engagement is the area that is the focus. And working with the high school would probably be like the third phase of placemaking along this corridor. And the pitch is to have it's called Burbank Urban Garden Academy. And with that academy, Todd McPherson, he's the basically the founding educator or environmental art, what do you call it, agriculturalist that runs that academy. And I submitted the proposal with his placemaking idea in mind. And, again, I'll pull up the site of the school, and they have a map of the school and potential placemaking activities that can happen with a team of artists going in, implementing the program. What they really want to know is what kind of campaign and the pitch is, what kind of campaign will the museum and the core group of artists do with the funding addressing the social justice issues for that community, right? So they really make you look at the map, make you look at the plan, and do all of that while you're putting the proposal together. But I think we have a decent chance in it getting funded, or parts of it, or the whole thing being funded, because it's a strong proposal. and it shows how the agile workforce that I talked about in the presentation with the California Association of Museums. And so carrying that conversation on with putting this workforce together with the artists in this placemaking project. So my mind's still twirling around on that thing that I spin out there, and that's for the year of 2024. The current beautification project that we're working on ends June of 2024. This project will pick up December and go through September of 2024, where all the funds have to be spent by that time, and the project has to be executed during that time. So, and this funding comes from more of COVID funding that's been released through the state.
Mhm.
And then the larger organizations, it's 300,000. And it's only like, I think 2 of those that are being funded. And then there's, like I said, 117,000 for the region. And that region is reaching like 4 different areas of the valley. You know, in some of the rural areas to get funding and programming out there. So, but I think it's a very strong proposal because all of the artists that I pulled on this project will be facilitators as well for public seminars and discussion. You know, we even have people like, and when they, what do you call it? When they talk about people that are, you know, like a core sectors, you know, across sectoring as you program. You know what cross sector, Laura? Maybe
Right, it's in the arts, it's multidisciplinary, but it's cross-sector is kind of getting your engineers and your artists and your social service folks, teachers, whatever, kind of comparing notes and biting off a chunk of the project and making it relevant for their communities, but kind of coming back and informing the whole.
So that's what I thought about too when I was writing and working with this proposal about what cross-sector opportunities that we already have with in terms of partnerships that have already been happening over the years, you know, with this project. And so I was able to pull that together because the museum has already been working in cross-sector as an arts organization. And they also wanted individual artists that were forming a creative team. They had to prove that they did cross-sector work, you know, and that's a new, not a new pet word or a new phrase in development, but I thought it was interesting how now it's all this cross-sector. Before it was what, partnerships?
Right.
Oh, it's just
So that's kind of the whole basis of STEM and STEAM is that you create all these different paths to intersect and that students can try out their skills in things that they hadn't thought about or been exposed to. So, you know, connections between math and music. Music helps teach math, you know, so. But you don't know that until you have a math expert and a music teacher sitting side by side, kind of doing the curriculum and the implementation and then documenting it and sharing it with others. So.
well, I know that the governor put like 60 million, like in a one-time general fund allocated for the California Arts Council in 2021 in the state budget, you know, and it was for issues of public health and awareness, you know, campaign around COVID, also for public awareness related to water and energy conservation, climate mitigation, and emergency preparedness. relief and recovery. And then the third area was civic engagement, including election participation. And the fourth area is social justice and community engagement. So that's what I kind of focused on with the proposal, more of the work. And it was interesting looking at how some of the artists on the team have had to deal with social justice issues. You know, like there's one sister that was battered by police officers. And so now, I mean, she was probably a social justice, you know, on a social justice platform anyway, with the Melanated Academy school that she, you know, formed and put together there in Sacramento, but just to be a victim, you know. So she's able to talk about what happened. And we also have two other artists that were working, they're dancers, but they're working with agricultural type programming and gardening. And they have an interesting story about how they came to this collective, or to the team I assembled. And we have, what's his name is hooked. He's hooked on fishing, not violence, where he takes youth out every Saturday morning to fishing as a way of being able to not do storytelling, but to get the stories of, you know, of the young men that may not talk in other environments, because fishing is, don't fish, but, you know, fishing is this other type of calming experience while you're sitting there and learning, I guess, the art of fishing. And but that also deals with environmental issues, that deal with waterway issues. And, you know, so he has this whole curriculum that he teaches. But I read his backstory when I was doing the research on him, and some of his leaving his two other entrepreneurial jobs. He tells his story about, you know, like the drug abuse that happened, the sales, winding up in prison, you know, violating probation, and winding up being shot up, you know, where he's totally almost disabled from gunshot wounds, you know, and why he's doing this work now, right? And so that's why he says hooked on fishing and not violence as a violence prevention, you know, initiative that's cross-sector. And he has articles where he's been at the museum, where he works with museum youth, you know, and how the arts and that come together. So he was a person I put on the team to be a facilitator, you know, as well as, you know, how that partners with one of the artists or with the artist team, especially when we're doing the seminars, you know. And then another artist that's on the team, again, with Nakia, her story was coming back from the Bay Area and driving through this racist area, and, you know, it's a stretch of area between outside of the University of Davis, coming into Sacramento in Northern California. And she was pulled over on and not a traffic stop, but she pulled over to trade seats with her father, because he had been driving, like 61. So when she got out of the car, a patrol car had pulled up behind. And then the next scenario, she's been manhandled and then put in jail, you know, or knocked unconscious and put in jail, you know, for what, trading seats with her father. And so all these charges were pulled up on her. So she had some interesting dialogue on NPR, and when she had to rally attorneys and do a lot of social justice, you know, talks, you know, about what happened to her, you know what I mean? And so bringing her to the table, you know, sometimes we all have these experiences, but when you have the experience, you know, with the law enforcement and social justice. So they want to know in this grant how, you know, and the experience that the people on the team bring to the project, you know, and if they've already partnered with the museum and not just made up where they're just, you know, coming, but show existing programming. And so a lot of facilitators, artists slash facilitators that are coming have had some type of experience with the museum and what they're bringing to the table. The artists that I pulled together also they work as activists, you know, even the directors and activists. So it's a pretty interesting team of 12 partners that are coming together. And then I have about maybe 6 organizations that are coming to the table as community partners, you know, on the proposal. But at the end of the day, it's about taking the information about walkability in a community, looking at what the report says that is lacking, and how this community is in the lower percentile of services, education, housing, you know, transportation, economics, the economy. And then there's some other areas that you looked at that are below the index, you know, for that area. And then to take those statistics or percentiles and use them in the narrative, you know, and how you're going to address the marginalization of the community and through the arts. And
So
Cindy,
Alpha, do you have a way of producing with any of these partners short form documentaries about the different aspects of the project? Because that would be a great product, archival information.
what I did as part of the proposal, I said to them that that's what the intent of Pop-Up Research Station will do, because there's 3 forms of surveys and audits that we will be conducting. Of course, the pre-audit, and then the audits that'll take place are the interceptive audits that will take place during art programming, because we have the African Heritage, Black Heritage Festival that's coming up in February of 2024, where that'll be an opportunity, opportune time to gauge those types of surveys. And there's a 5K walk, and you got people out like that. And then there's another survey for walkability, and how do you create place or placemaking for people that are in Sacramento. You got to have a car. The transit stuff is not working, you know, or it does if you got all day long to ride the bus and try to find a train. But most people have cars, but we were looking at the walkability in terms of placemaking and how far these placemaking opportunities, for example, the Burbank Urban Garden Academy, and how far is that from this target community that we're saying our campaign is in. But the urban, academy, the BUG, we'll call it, academy, is within this district, the Healthy Place Index that we were targeting. But when you look at the walkability for youth in the community to get there, you know, what do we put in place? I don't know, it's wayfinders or smaller placemaking projects to encourage people to come over there. Only noting that when we were there for the kickoff, the governor was there. I kind of like did this survey of the demographics of space and people that attended. And I know that the African-American population was very low on in terms of participation, in terms of being out there in the academy. You know, we start count, I don't know, it's a habit. You start counting how many African-Americans are assembled in one space at one time. You know, you take that visual survey and do the count of how many, I'm just showing you this right here as what we had to work with this index. And then I looked at how many Asian youth were out there, or Southeast Asian youth were out there, and how many Hispanic youth were out there. And I did that visual, and I have some photographs of that visual, demographic count. But when I went to this healthy index, I saw how, you know, they gave the percentages of how many African-American students were at Burbank, which used to be in a total African-American community, but it's not reflective of that anymore. And then I looked at also the school site plan, and the school site plan is looking the retention of African-American students and the detention of African-American students, and the expulsion rate of African-American students were higher than all the other kids in the whole school, and how they're trying to do programming to address that with African-American students, and how to get their families engaged and showing up for community engagement, you know, by even signing up that they attended. And so that's what I focused on in the proposal of how to get this disenfranchised part of the community to come and be a part of the urban and deal with environmental justice, and then learn more about social, you know, and social justice issues by and including and being inclusive in art programming.
Mhm.
I don't know. So
Oh,
it's a lot
just
of
the-
research.
Yeah, just a quick aside, that was one thing that Maseko mentioned about the conference. She said more African Americans need to participate in that organization and in the conference. So she was sort of concerned about that. So I just wanted to bring that up.
Well, exactly. And so I'm showing you how the percentile rankings happen here in public health. And here we are with with where Sacramento is. And I did type in where the museum is located. We're in more of the, but they call it in the track, like the second track, because of the zip code.
Mhm.
And that's Alberta is way out north. When you find where urban, that's Yolo County. That's one of the areas that they're funding with Creative for as well. Elk Grove is, you can see down here at the bottom where the tracks start moving. The lower end where what we were looking at is the HPI score is in the blue. Green, it's, you know, kind of higher. So I was trying to find, but I went in through zip codes of how, so this HIP score is too high, the 3s are too high to even apply, you know, for.
Okay.
So that's how I had to study this and learn how to read it as well. And then take this report. This is Sacramento County, and here it is where it's in the blue, but that's only maybe the second level, but we have to be in the first level 1 to qualify for the highest need in the HPI ranking. So even before beginning to write these proposals, you gotta sit up and do a lot of research on what they're talking about and learning that. So answering your question, what we will do is take the 3 different types of surveys that I talked about, with the walkability survey, audit, and then the interceptive audit, and then compile all those in a final report. And then it would probably be good to use the, what do you say? It would, the personal, like what interviews that you mentioned, Laura?
Well, you know, what I was suggesting was short form documentaries, not a feature length, but capturing interviews and editing it into short form. That's kind of, it ends up being a product, because the interaction that you have in creating this project informs the community. But if you've got a short form documentary, everybody in the world can kind of look at the YouTube and find out how the intersections work. So it can be a job training, video, media, education partnership. I don't know if any of the high schools teach that. it
What I
could-
did is I wrote it in to the grant. What's his name? Kevin Coleman. He had talked to us. He applied to be the graphic artist with our beautification project, and he really bid it low. And but his vision was to be able to work with and put together a entrepreneurial program for youth to work with him under graphic arts and learn, and also with video and photojournalism. So I wrote his proposal into this, that he would be that campaign, he would be
Right.
that promoter. And then that way they would put that PSA piece together.
Right.
We also have a PSA piece that, like you're talking about with the beautification project, where Escape Velocity, one of our community partners, facilitating that part. And they go out to the community events, and those youth are being, through a training to learn videography, to learn photojournalism, and they're putting those PSAs together. So yeah, we're working on it. And then I had, like I said, one to show you right now, but I got lost in all the data stuff, which I found was interesting, because right here was the percentile of the zip code 95823 that we're going to be doing programming in, and it's way down here on this scale. Where it was like less of a the healthy community conditions were really low in that area. So
Cool.
I was able to kind of do that stuff. So man, I'm gonna pull up some documentation in a minute of our that we've been getting from artists in the field. They've been submitting some really good stuff, because I've asked for visual journals, not only written journals, but I wanted visual journals from artists to, and I thought that's a better way of, now that everybody's asking for 2 or 3 minutes of, on these, on our, all these reports, they're asking for at least 2 or 3 minutes of, what did I do with that? Interviews, like, and for you to pitch your ideas, or pitch, maybe you can say it better in a video. I thought that would be a good way for the artist to not have to do all this writing, but they can actually just submit their work by video.
That's
So,
good.
yeah.
That's great. I'm gonna note that down for what we've got going this summer.
Right. And I mean, we've been getting some excellent videos. I mean, again, the problem here is they send me this stuff via text messaging, and that's why it's taking me a minute to pull it up, because of the way I get the content. It's like, oh, please, would you just send it to me through an email, and that way I don't have to go through all of these, different ways of gathering the stuff that they give me, but at least we get it. And I think it's been really strong.
Well, with all the work that you're doing, combining all of these ideas and expertise and plans in all the different way, what do you need to grow your own capacity? I know you can do all of these things, but it sounds like you need to be a team, and you're getting worn out. You're building the team.
Here's the video that one of the video documentation.
This is one that the artist sent.
One of the artists, Unity Lewis, he is a really good graphic artist.
Journey with the Florin Road Community Beautification Project. We'll start off this presentation by showing you the mock-up for the murals that we are doing at the Sojourner Truth Museum. There are 2 back-to-back that kind of flow together, that deal with the children in the community and also the artwork of Aaron Douglas. This is the Photoshop mock-up template that I put together for our
That's
early
great.
fall.
So where would we find this? On YouTube or something?
We're gonna put it up on YouTube as soon as report.
Yeah. You know, I've got a bunch of videos that I need that we commissioned years ago that tell all kinds of stories. And I need video expertise to know where to, I guess I should just start asking people.
This is, he sent another one where he's actually talking through what they're doing, but this mural is,
It's about 179 square feet of wall space that we will be painting. The initial concept.
You know,
I
he
love the
could,
monarchs everywhere.
Migration.
Yeah.
renewal.
he could do a workshop just in Photoshop for artists, you know, for projects.
There's like 3
Yeah.
really good video documents in this project that just came in for our report.
So Alpha, will those pictures be, of the youth be pictures, or will they be drawn images?
They're going to show it right now. They're
Okay.
going to be they're painted on.
All of them.
Okay.
To lead to Judah, I learned something from each one of them.
Unity is the brother with the
teaching me
braids.
So much about the art of
And,
leading, because collectively they all have more experience than me. Same with getting a chance to visit.
So who are the older men? Artists.
Malik Senrufa is from the Bay Area, and he drives over
And I'm also very
every other day or the weekend just to do this project. And Lee McCormick, he lives there in Sacramento. They're all painters and visual artists, muralists.
Her and Alpha both have done such a good job of keeping this thing.
So that's just an interesting story about, you know, younger population with different set of skills and older master, you know, working together.
Lovely.
And Unity said this is the first hand-painted mural and learning this process that he's done. He's an aerosol artist.
Yeah.
So this is,
The Earth Day project was truly a huge success. What an amazing event where we get to go out.
So he's doing all this on his phone, right?
Youth,
all of this on the phone.
everyone showed up.
It's great. I know. Isn't it crazy? These
Yeah.
phones are amazing now. Oh, hello.
Yeah, I'm painting trees out there, tree wrap.
And even after the Earth Day,
I love it. It looks fun. It's so great.
show up and pour their hearts and love into this mural.
It's almost over. So it's coming together. And to answer
And blending
Rhonda's
different
question,
Douglas paintings that act as the background together. Everyone's showing up. Putting their hands-
That's a sweet shot.
Everyone's styles coming out.
and we even had
Picasso's been putting some
to,
heavy work down
That's
for
pretty good. Look at that. That looks good.
Tamika Lewis, one of the first African-American women to join the Black Panther Party. She came and helped on the mural as well. She's been coming out. She's friends with Malik and Karen. This is-
Before we end, because we're getting close, I'm super curious. Why doesn't the museum have an online shop, an e-commerce shop?
Jonah's putting one together. They have one there at the museum. But see, that's kind of like the documentation that we're gathering just to share it with you from the artists on this team.
Nice.
And they're just coming in. You know, that was one of the requirements. I asked to give visual journals, and it's really like I'll share in the future some of the other documentation that's coming through, you know, with these projects. They're just turning them in, you know, and this has been since the kickoff of the project April 8th. Yeah. So that's what I'll be spending the rest of the afternoon, putting that documentation together in a format for presentation. Because I haven't even showed you the cheers, the maquettes of the metal cheers yet, because those are amazing. That's coming.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah,
Right.
I can't wait to see those.
And all I could do is look at the box that came from Blix, and I haven't even taken my canvases out of the box to get ready for my 2 chairs. I have 2 8-foot chairs that I'm painting, and the boxes
Oh,
over there.
wow.
I haven't been able
Where
to
are
have a
you
breather.
keeping them? Down, you have a shop downstairs, or are you doing
No,
it
here,
in your?
I'm gonna, this is a live workspace. This is a live.
No, so you're gonna have the 8-foot chairs in your
No,
workspace?
just the canvas for the mock-up, because all of us have been
Okay.
asked to do a mock-up and then not a little
Okay, got
small
you.
piece, but the mock-up has to be a full painting. The 8-foot,
Oh,
10-foot chairs, I gave everyone a 24 by 48 canvas to actually put,
mhm,
I know what you're painting, because I'm not gonna give you
right,
free rein to paint what you want, but this is a process of public art. All the paintings
yeah,
will be exhibited by Caltrans in a big citywide exhibition. Not only this
mhm,
project, but the 4 other projects that the city of Sacramento acquired through the Caltrans beautification project, for California Green. So, yeah. So, and then the next step, once the paintings are done, we have one of the younger artists that has the, that knows how to take and do a mock-up of the painting on one of the chairs, so we'll have a series of those, as visual
mhm.
as well.
Wow,
So
nice.
documentation is coming in. I was only able to share that one with you, but they will be on the Sojourner Truth website and Instagram pages as well, to view the the other things that are going on with the project.
Great.
Okay, and I know
Cool.
we started with this conversation, and I guess we ended it with it. Liza, you guys have any other comments? Again, like I said, I can't, we don't have the time to kind of share some of the other documentation with you, but it's exciting what's coming in and what they're doing out there, and even the mural that's focused on the Mexican community, well, yeah, out there, Latinx out there, is right across the way. And then I'll show you some more of the placemaking that's happening in that area. And with the grant that we got from the state of California Endowment, Natural Resources, the other part of this will be implemented in June, where they'll start the second phase of the outdoor mural at the complex.
Great.
Great.
I put a Word
Welcome.
document with the links to the websites that everybody was throwing in the chat regarding artificial intelligence. Let me know.
Okay, a meeting today. Thank you. On the menu.
Yeah, on the chat.
Okay.
I think I did it right. Who knows?
Well, we're going to save this, and it's going to be part of the Read AI artificial intelligence meeting secretary that I have online. Thank you very much.
Oh,
Our capacity, that's great.
so how do you add that to your Zoom?
Well, it has an app. When you
Okay.
go in, it has an app that connects it to Zoom. And then every Zoom meeting, you have to make sure that you turn it on by signing in. When you sign in, it starts the meeting and joins you on the meeting.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
Cool.
Well,
We're not there yet, though. If anybody has anything else to say?
We're there. So everybody have a
Okay.
good week.
okay, you
And
guys. have a good
congratulations,
week.
Laura. We're
Thank
doing
you.
the happy
Yeah,
dance. Let's do the
congrats.
happy dance. Let's do the happy dance.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Thanks.
Relief to know that your project will be funded. It is like, so I can't, the idea that it wouldn't be, your hard work pays off. Thank you again, Laura, for hanging in there.
And it's always good to have organizational support as well, like, with, again, funding your positions.
Right. That's essential. And so now we need to look for like 3 years of support so we can keep going. It's not the jump start.
Mhm.
business.
Next phase. You're on the train moving. It has left the station.
Oh, I wrote the grant in California, so there must be some inspiration.
Oh, hello. I see the connection because it's going to happen here too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know it. Okay,
All
much.
right. You guys have a great week.
Bye.
Bye-bye, everyone.
Bye, everyone. Thank you.